And Jody, if you wouldn't mind, just talking a little bit about the volume of people that you worked with over the past year and the increase.
I'm not aware of the numbers. I know that they've increased.
Okay.
I don't know specific numbers, but I know the office is very busy. So I really enjoy doing claims. I have a high rate of claims that go through, and it's because I take the time to meet with the veteran and file the claim properly. And I think that that makes the big difference in those claims going through. I think total claims appealed probably will go down. They're, well, not necessarily because we're doing a lot of claims, but there was a lot of appeals and reopens, we call them, because there was time that had lapsed or veterans that weren't aware that they were denied and could have refiled, that type of thing. So that's what we're moving toward, is again getting word of mouth and getting word out in the community that they may have been told prior that they couldn't file for something, or that they're not able to, and I'm finding that that's not the case. We're having veterans come in, and even if it's not a claim for disability, we're able to get them into health care or help them through our county fund, our state fund, with emergent need, things like that that they qualify for that they were not aware of. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, kind of the bottom line up front is our office, our committee, using the resources that the county has provided us, are really reaching out to the veterans who may have had a smaller claim, disability claim. We help them get the title and the benefits that they've earned, that they deserved. And you can see, you know, $341,000 and some change in back pay for disability claims, and just shy under $500,000 in increases in initial disability rating. So these aren't small chunks of change. So we're really making an impact with the veterans in our county. And I will say, she is so talented. She is so talented as a VSO. We are getting people coming in from other counties directly to see Jody. And nothing against the former VSO, but that wasn't happening. And so we are now looking at how can we expand on that. Maybe working with other counties on a per diem to get the veterans that they have into our office, and then that county will pay us to provide those services. So those are some things we're looking at moving forward. For our budget, you can see we had a net of about 24, 25, and 78 cents. We have the millage, then we have a couple of grants that we use, and we have folks that donate money to our committee. So one thing that we started, we have a Facebook page up. We're linked in now with the county's website. And one thing that we do is we highlight veterans in our county. Once a month we do a veteran spotlight. And this is really important because a lot of our older veterans, Vietnam veterans, they weren't welcomed home when they came back from their service. And so this is something that we do to say thank you and to really highlight the talented veterans in our county. This past year, we did our first annual VA 5K. We did it in Getty Park, day after Veterans Day. It was cold, it was crappy, but it was awesome. It really was. And one of the nice things about this is, this was kind of put together with not much notice. We had some very generous partners in the community that were willing to donate their time and their money to help get this off the ground. And we had several runners from outside the county come into the county to run the race. So this is we're looking to establish an annual event. This is going to be our annual event. We're going to look to partner with the schools in the county, partner them with businesses so they can run on behalf of a veteran, kind of like if you're familiar with the Shelby and Hart Pink and Green Bowl. We're going to kind of take that concept and apply it to the veterans. And this will be a continued event for us that we think will not only help raise money for veterans in the county, but also running a 5K in November. There aren't too many places that are doing that. And we had serious runners come from Grand Rapids, Battle Creek, some from the middle of the state. By having this at this time, we're going to be able to draw people into our county, and we have it, and they have an opportunity to go to our shops, go to our restaurants after the race is over. So this is really an event that can help the county businesses capitalize on people coming in. So that's one thing that we're going to do moving forward. And I just want to highlight Terry. Terry is a long member of the committee, was a committee chair before me, and he is retiring and has retired from the committee. So I just wanted to highlight that because he put a lot of time, talent, and energy to help get the committee up off the ground and continue to serve up until this past year. So the only other thing that I have, this concludes the presentation, is we are going to ask you to increase our committee from 5 members to 7. And the reason why we're asking is because, I'm almost hesitant to say this, but we are probably the most active committee outside of like Kent County and Muskegon County in this area. We are pulling with our private-public partners to help take care of veterans' needs, whether that's transportation. We have quite a substantial food pantry over in Jody's office, and by allowing 7 members to join the committee, we can expand and do more within the community. We're looking to do quite a few things, and so having 7 members instead of 5 will give us the bandwidth to be able to engage our internal stakeholders, which are the veterans, and then also our external stakeholders, which are members of the community. Because right now, with 5 members, it really doesn't offer us the opportunity to be as effective as we could be. So thank you for your time. That ends my presentation. Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Walker.
I was on the board when we first established the Veterans Affairs Department, and I was new on the board. I had just been on the board a month or so when the question came up, and Evelyn Colby from Hesperia was the lead person in putting the Veterans Affairs through, and Evelyn kept telling us that the Veterans Affairs, if it operates and functions properly, will bring more money into the county than it costs the county to do it, and it'll provide a much needed service for the veterans in the county. And it's obvious to me in the last year or so, and hearing from veterans all the time, with Jody's abilities and with your leadership on the Veterans Affairs Committee, that it is an outstanding organization, and it's something that every member of the community and the members of this board should be proud that we have because of your leadership and Jody's ability. And thank both of you for what you do.
Thanks, sir.
Absolutely. And what I'd like to say is that, you know, in the past, if we were to Google Veterans Affairs Oceana County, we would come to a defunct website that we
Yes,
had
sir.
$100,000 invested or
Yeah,
something
don't get me
of
started
that.
on that, sir.
Well, what
know.
I'd like, my comment is, if you do it now, we're directed nicely. There's none of the old stuff there, and the page, our new page, is wonderful compared to what it had been. So I would love to say thank you for cleaning it up, straightening it out, making it more streamlined, easy to find. It's the #1 Google search. So
Paul.
thank you very much.
Paul, I'd lastly like to say, and excuse me for not saying this originally, the 5 members of this board know what it's like to have a 5-member board. And I think the 5 members of this board would concur that a 7-member board is not going to be a problem for us.
Great. Yes, sir.
Mr. Erickson, I'd like to also, if you haven't checked out our Facebook page, that is something new.
Yep.
Also.
And we're directed to a Facebook page on the county website, so that's another nice link that's right there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, so I just want to address and thank first of all you, Derek, for your leadership, but also my guess is, I don't know you other than rubbing shoulders with you, my guess is you have a passion for these veterans. That's why they come to you, not because it's a job, but for you, but because you have a passion for them and you care about them, and that's why they're coming from other counties. So thank you for having that passion and bringing it out.
So if I ever end up in jail, you guys will bail me out.
I'll talk with the sheriff over there.
Well,
work out. You got a lot of work to do.
I would say one more thing about Jody. Yes, she is a veteran herself, a combat veteran. It's one thing to have passion, but it's also another thing to be exceedingly competent in what you do.
Right.
So we are blessed beyond measure that we were able to get Jody and steal her from the Wago and bring her up here. She's the volume of veterans that we've been able to help, the volume of veterans claims that we've been able to fix in the past 18 to 24 months, she's worth her weight in gold. So I can't praise her enough for the hard work and dedication she's provided to not only our committee, but the veterans of Oceana County.
Thank you.
Tim.
I would just echo what Phil said, and Bob, just certainly we feel the crunch of a 5 to 7 and certainly recognize going from 5 to 7 is going to be a benefit. I will say just my little bit of experience with the Veterans Committee, obviously if you've been around veterans very often, they're very efficient but they are passionate. So I applaud their efforts, the committee and Jody and your staff. Just they're doing good work, and they do have a drive to make a difference, to be efficient and be really they're multiplying their money with their efforts, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks,
So.
sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Curtis Burdett with our Economic Development. Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate the opportunity. In front of you, you have, well, first let me introduce, we have 5 board members here. Brady Selner, and if you just stand up quick so everybody knows who we are. Tammy, Scott, Phil, oh, did I count wrong? Was that 4? Oh, and also like to introduce Amber right here. Amber is from the administrative support that you provided. She's been helping. There's a lot going on in the Economic Alliance, and so having that resource, and we'll continue to. You've seen some of the Facebook posts, and she's out and about in the. You'll see more shots out in Oceana County as some of the fun trips that she has. She's going to bring more pictures in. So hopefully you've been seeing more of that activity. And we've also created a LinkedIn page that's added some things there too. So anything you want to?
I would just echo that, yes, we've got a lot going on, countywide with the Oceana Economic Alliance, but also, putting the village administrator hat on for the Village of Shelby, just in the Village of Shelby, on what, the partnership with the OCA has done and been able to, impact Shelby, which also impacts the county, of course.
And so this is a draft flyer here, so needs some improvements. It's coming along, but just kind of to highlight, some of it's really like everything, it's about relationships. So visiting some of these businesses, being able to sit down with them and understand what's going on, what are their challenges, and really not just now, but what's going to be affecting them to grow in 5, 10, 20 years. And so there's some things that I've been able to dig in deep with them just in these first 3 months that I've been here. On the inside, so the people, place, prosperity. So people is really about the workers, thinking about HR. So there's an HR network group that meets monthly. I've had the opportunity to kind of take that over and bring some of our HR leaders from both the private sector, nonprofits, and the public sector together to just talk about HR issues and hearing good news. Like at the last one just a couple weeks ago, applications for job openings are up over the past several years. So hearing that more people are applying, there's more things going on, and so exciting that that our companies are seeing more applicants come in. Place is, what makes it a great place to be. We've got great outdoors here, and there's parks, there's the dunes, there's the lake, there's lots of inland lakes, and so the parks, thinking about those things and where those resources go to bring the place to the forefront, that makes it exciting. And then prosperity, so looking at how we can help support our businesses, help support wages, and there's a number of things going on. One thing, if you have not had a chance to fill out the survey from DataWise, that is a workforce training survey. Please do, and if you need the link, let me know and I can send it to you. But we're at 430 responses, and so we're trying to see if we can get 500, but really to have that representation of the workforce. We've got a number of high school students who filled it out, retirees, and folks who are working, everybody in between. And so it helps just to kind of learn about what you've heard from others about training opportunities, education, what would make that easier. So if you need that link, I can send it to you, but if you get a chance, it takes 10 minutes. But it helps us out to take that data and then figure out how do we move that next step forward. What are people asking for? How can we start to put our limited resources towards moving one of those forward? And so so there's a few things on here. One of the things that I have the opportunity to do is work on a number of these grants, help administer, help file some of the paperwork, help bring some of the meetings together. And so that's one of them. Working on the water extension project to the new housing in Shelby Township. And so there's several pieces of that that come into play. And I'll just kind of run through a quick list of things here just to kind of share with you some of the stuff that's been going on just in the past 3 months, because it's very exciting. And there's more going on besides this. We have 12 board members. Each of them are active in the community. This organization started with this commission January 1st, 1980. So in 43 years, a lot has happened with economic development in the county with the support of the commissioners. So I very much appreciate everything that's come before me to come in and be so busy. So it's exciting. But getting out there, one thing we talk about is business retention and expansion, and that's just, I mentioned already, going to businesses, finding out what do they need to grow, what are those opportunities, what can we help make it easier for them to do their jobs, are there things that we can find. They've had great things to say about our townships, about our leadership, about the employees they work with on permitting and things along those lines, and so happy to report that. Always good to have good news. There's some folks who leave bigger cities because they are not as easy to work with, so always good to have there. We've got had a number of events, as I mentioned. We have an HR network group that meets monthly. We've had, you're probably aware, we've had several brownfield meetings. We had one last Friday at the County Services Building, and so had some great conversations there, and good things going on, some new projects to come. And each of those is not just addressing an issue of an underused piece of land or building, but it's also figuring out ways to create value from that. So there's an economic development piece, there's what's this project and how is this going to benefit the community. So it's more than just addressing contamination or blight, it's figuring out what comes next, how can we support that. Next week, Tuesday, the 28th, I invite you, if you're available, to come to the County Services Building. The Right Place is hosting an Economic Development 101, just to kind of talk about some of the partnerships with how townships, villages, counties are using the resources that are out there, because there's a lot of grant money that's come out in the past couple of years. So you're welcome to attend that. It's going to be a video there, but I'll be there as well. So happy to talk to folks, answer questions, and share more about how we can work with that. One really exciting thing is I've already had the opportunity in the past 3 months to work with 7 of our 16 townships directly. And so it's exciting that they've been reaching out and wanting to help, and I'll be at the MTA meeting next week, and so and several others have talked to me. We just don't have, projects or particular things we're working on. So great to have connections with folks who are ready to try and do some different things. And out there talking to businesses, some of our biggest producers and a number of our smaller businesses, some entrepreneurs. Got a call this week about somebody who wants to do some development, housing development in Oceana County, and so each of those new projects is the next opportunity for a business, the next opportunity for jobs in Oceana County. So always exciting there. Working with our schools, with the colleges have been very involved in this workforce training discussion, and in several other projects. So talking both to West Shore and Muskegon Community College. So they're in tune with what we have going on. Some exciting things there. We've had several projects with utilities. We have the new broadband committee and the Frontier, TrueStream from Great Lakes Energy, and Spectrum all reached out for letters of support on that, and really connected in those relationships to say, hey, we want to invest in Oceana County. DTE put their grant application in to bring the gas extension out to Levitt, Hart Township, and Elbridge, and so just exciting to see those bigger companies wanting to invest in the county and figuring out how they can make those things happen. We have a pitch night for food and beverage coming up in May, and was just talking to one of the companies today, and they're like, can't have it in May, that's the busiest time. That's not a good time for us to be putting a presentation together for a pitch. So I'll be giving that feedback. That's the MEDC, the Economic Development Corporation of Michigan, is putting that on. So I'll give them some feedback, like, hey, if you want to do food and beverage, maybe the start of the growing season is not the best time to do that. So, just exciting that there's more programs coming out and being able to get involved in those. Like I mentioned, a number of grants that are our office is helping to support in partnership with the county and several of the municipalities, as well as researching and finding new opportunities for things. And so people have asked, hey, what about this? What can we do with this building in Mears in Golden Township to say, hey, how can we make something of this? How can we help get our downtown a little more active, and looking at roads, and Lee just called me from Crystal Township saying, hey, when you came up here in January, you came on the best road, but we've got a couple roads that, and we looked it up and found, hey, they're on the federal track. Let's make sure if there's funding out there from the feds that we're getting it directed to those roads, and starting that process so we can make that happen. And so it's a lot of relationships. It really comes back to that. But there's been a lot of great groundwork laid. This community is really excited for progress in a lot of different areas, and so it's been a lot of fun to get out and meet folks, to learn how I can help and support the great work that everybody's doing. And so that's kind of the update that I have. I don't know if any of our board members have anything to add.
Are you done talking?
You can.
Well, as far as the Community Foundation goes, and I'm the director of the foundation, we feel that economic development is just absolutely critical to the prosperity and health and the progress of our community, as I'm sure you do too. It's a reason why I'm the past board chair of the OCA, why I became involved, why we as a foundation received a grant also to support the workforce development study. And so we're invested right along with the county in the absolute critical value of supporting economic development. It is on our strategic plan in a number of places. Affordable housing, education. When you think about higher education, we're the hole in the donut. It's all happening around us. And we don't have a higher education institution in Oceana County, as you know, and that's why Phil is such a champion on this. And is there a need and a gap for bringing a resource like that into Oceana County? And there is a lot happening. I mean, I cannot believe how quick and fast and hard Curtis has hit the ground here. And I mean, he shared with us at the last meeting all the meetings he has gone to, and it was I don't know, page and a half or 2 full pages. I looked at that and I thought, oh gosh, I need to get busy, man. He's like really hit it hard, and we can see it. I mean, he has drummed up new interests, new opportunities, and all of that's going to flow back. Right? It all flows back in so many ways. It flows back with people having greater opportunities in their jobs. It flows back with them being able to buy homes and providing tax money back to the county. Businesses growing, same thing. So it's one of the best investments that I think that we can make as a whole county, what sources it comes from. The municipalities, the county, of course, and Community Foundation, businesses, a lot of partners there.
And I'll just add, I've been on the OCA now for two years and serving as chair this year, along with my busy schedule as village administrator. But I see the value, you know, both from serving in that capacity for the village specifically, but also the county as a whole, because a lot of times economic development can be hard to define because it's multifaceted. I mean, people, place, prosperity. Mainly you think of economic development of business, you know, attraction and retention, but then once you have them here, how do you attract the people? And that's where place comes in, because, you know, people want a cool place to live, and that's where you get a lot of the things through a lot of the grants that we've got throughout the county on our parks projects and stuff will all help that. But I'm really looking forward to, you know, serving as chair and continuing the partnership and looking to see how we can make sure that we continue to grow financially as an organization and slowly become self-funding, because it is the results of, a lot of times there can be a lot of work that goes into it, but then there's a lot of little wins, and then there's a big win every now and then. And the big wins, everything's important, but speaking to the Purdue farms that, you know, was able to, we were able to attract largely through the Economic Alliance and the partnership that that board has with the Right Place, that's when you see like a direct value kind of give back, because we were looking at, you know, in the village of Shelby and in the county, that building just going to sit there and, you know, slowly decay, unfortunately. And with that, we're seeing a $23 million investment, which I don't know what the millage rate is for the county, so I don't have the direct dollar value, but I know for the village, it's going to be tens of thousands, 20 of thousands of dollars that we're going to be able to see because of that investment. So it's always great to, you know, see the tangible, but a lot of times with economic development, it is a couple years maybe not seeing those direct results, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable. Unfortunately, for this board right now, we've got more than enough of those tangible examples that are going to really improve the county now and in the future.
And that comes back to, there's an opportunity right now. What we're looking to do is, we certainly appreciate the funding for the county. We are looking and asking for more investors, so you're going to see a little bit more about asking businesses, asking municipalities, asking others to help make sure that this organization continues to thrive and be financially successful, and perhaps have additional resources we can provide for programs for entrepreneurs, programs for businesses, programs for HR and training. So, and that's a little behind schedule. As I understand, before I got here, there was some discussion of that. And so, but as we have a lot going on, if there is an opportunity for additional support for the organization to help us this year, and maybe in a amount that gets us through the next 3 years, a little less each year, or whatever could happen, just because we don't want to shift too much from the activity we have going on to focus on fund development. But you're going to see a lot more. I think we can get there, but I just want to make sure that we're not in a position as we're getting near the end of the year where we've got to really struggle to get through that. And so I think you can see in the numbers on there that, you know, this is an organization that brings money back directly to the county, and directly to municipalities, to projects, to results. And so hopefully that is something that we could make happen. So otherwise, we're happy to take any questions.
As an OCA board member, so I'm going to speak more as a member of the public here than as a county board member. I just want to, I guess, frame it this way. If we didn't have OCEA, where would people that are looking to develop economically be here, you know, have questions, have concerns, need some consultation and direction, where would they go? And right now, we have the answer is OCEA and our executive director, Curtis. Before, it would be a little bit of a shot in the dark. That's my understanding, okay? Having Curtis here puts us at a whole nother level of somebody with quality consultation abilities and outgoingness and like he's a doer. He goes out there and he makes it happen. And so the value of OCEA because of him is even that much greater than it was before. And so that's I mean, the bottom line is we'll be blunt, and Curtis talked about it, we need more money. It's bottom line. And the fact is this funding model that we talked about, that he alluded to, started back in 3 years ago, and we failed on it. We haven't done it. But now it's time to do it. We need to do it. And so my idea was, you know, a stair step, kind of what Curtis alluded to, like maybe $30,000 this year, $20,000 the next, $10,000 the next, to wean us off, to wean the OCEA off. Just a thought. Just, you know, I don't have a vote on it here because it would be a conflict of interest, but it's just something to bring up and mention. And then the Purdue Farms. Can you go into a little bit about how, because we don't want to focus but I want to talk about the Right Place too and their involvement. Mm-hmm. We are our own entity. OCEA is our own entity, but we also have a great advocate for us in the Right Place. So can you tell us a little bit about how the Purdue Farms happened, how that project happened, and maybe Brady could talk more to it than.
Yeah, and I mean the answer is easy. It's through the partnership that this board has with the Right Place that made it happen, you know, period, because they've got a site selector that works primarily out of Grand Rapids, but you know, for all the partner counties as well. And so all that happened was I got an email from someone at the Right Place that said, hey, there's this new company that's looking to relocate. They're really interested in the building in Shelby. And then it just took off from there, and they were instrumental the entire time to make sure that we are able to, you know, get Purdue Farms in that location and continue to be helpful. So, I mean, we are our own entity, but with, I guess, the support of the Right Place, that's what made that happen. Without it, I would have never been any wiser that, you know, we had a perfect building for this massive corporation to come here and make dog treats. I would not have known. So, you know, it really is. It made my job easy, and it made this board look good primarily because of the relationship with the Right Place.
And just to add to that, so if you're not familiar, the Right Place is the original economic development for Grand Rapids in Kent County. And so for several years they've worked with rural partner counties. So they have 7 that they work with. So I have a team of 7 colleagues who are doing the same thing. So while I'm one person for Oceana County, I've got 7 people who've done this already in Michigan and other counties. So they know the people to talk to at MDOT. They know when somebody tells me, oh, it's this, and I go, well, they told me this, and they go, no, go talk to this person because that's not the right thing. So I have 40 coworkers that I can go to for resources, including the folks who work directly with some of the biggest companies in West Michigan. And so very exciting to have those resources. But I introduced myself. I'm the executive director of Oceana County Economic Alliance. So it is a partnership with the board, but that's where the funding comes from. That's where the focus of this position is. So it's a great partnership. And that'll actually be in the second draft. Their logo is off the front of that flyer, so that's one that I don't want you to hand out because we don't want them on the front. It'll say powered by the Right Place. There is a partnership in there, but we don't want their logo on the front. This is about Oceana County, and that's really important. It's very important to the board. It's very important to represent that this came from here. This is 43 years in the making in Oceana County.
Any other questions for Mr. Burdett? I'd like to say thank you, though. After meeting you, and I heard you were out in Colfax, and then you're at Arbor Farms, and then you're in Crystal Valley looking at the dam, and you've had some very good people take you on some tours, mm-hmm. and you've had some well-qualified and experienced individuals that have been able to give you that insight. And I really appreciate that, Curtis. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a very welcoming community. My phone's blowing up all the time, which is great, but you know, I'm just really excited. You've got 12 volunteers on the board who dedicate their time to supporting me and directing me, and they're going through a strategic planning next month. Another resource from the Right Place is they offered to come in as part of the contract and help the board with strategic planning and looking at how things are evolving and where they're going next, and some action planning. And so, but it's been incredibly welcoming. Everybody's like, come on out, and I love it. So it keeps me hopping.
Hopping over to Hart Brewery.
Yeah. I got the behind the scenes tour. It was nice.
Do you want me to read this letter?
Yes, please. Tracy has a letter she'd like to read.
So, Richard Raffaelli reached out to me before he left. I don't know if he's on vacation or what it is, but he asked me to read this to the board. He said, "Dear County Commissioners, I would have preferred to be there in person, but I am currently outside of the United States. The Oceana County Economic Alliance is a critical group to ensure Oceana County continues to grow. They have been directly responsible for several $1 million flowing to our county, and if this group did not exist, those dollars would have been earmarked for other regions. To my knowledge, this group would be one of the very few departments in the county that generate very real revenue, and the investment by the county in this group has a return to the community that rivals most privately invested funds. I'm sure Curtis will share with you what this group has achieved thus far, and that the board is committed to achieving more in the future. Receiving taxes and paying invoices should be a very small part of what you do as county commissioners, and the Economic Alliance allows the county commissioners to focus on growing the tax bases and investing in infrastructure that will support Oceana County for generations. Essentially strategic planning. Curtis is scheduled to give a presentation to the Michigan Township Association to ask the local townships for the financial support. My position as chairperson of the Oceana County MTA would be that the county fund those dollars and supported by cities and villages who are larger recipients of the millage rates, and the townships have the smallest millage rates. I believe the large to medium businesses in the area should also support the Economic Alliance financially. Oceana County would not grow and continue its decline without the Oceana County Economic Alliance in its existence. I urge you to all vote in favor of supporting this very strategic group and invest in Oceana County."
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Jim Kelly from the MSU Extension.
Good morning, folks. Nice to follow some other positive presentations, and I don't want to let it pass that Curtis is also bringing a new bar in terms of dress code in Oceana. I'm going to take that challenge on one day, Curtis, and just watch out.
You look great.
Appreciate the opportunity to share our annual report. I know you have a copy of that report electronically. Before I just dig into that document, I'll provide some general commentary, and of course if you have questions at the end of the presentation, I would welcome those. As you heard, a little bit of a theme this morning from the VA that 2022 was still kind of an adjustment year and coming back from the pandemic, and our overall numbers saw some solid growth in most areas, and I fully expect that this year we will exceed those numbers. I am going to refer to that document towards the end of my presentation, but do grab one of those. I want to start by just recognizing our local staff, and in doing so remind you of the mission of MSU Extension, and that is to take the knowledge and research of the university and to effectively distribute that out into the community where it can have a positive impact on the lives of folks. And the two educators that I'm going to focus on first are really just a shining light in terms of putting that mission into practice. So I came in here a few weeks ago and talked about the Asparagus Day and Ben Whirling and his work with the vegetable commodity growers. I'm going to also throw into this discussion Dr. Emily Lavely, who is our fruit research person, so she spends a lot of time at the research station, but I think the last time I was here I'd come from Asparagus Day, and there were about 140 commodity asparagus farmers at the Asparagus Day. Emily had her spring meeting last week, and there were about 80 tree fruit farmers at that meeting, which was a record number actually. So the most impressive part to me is just as kind of a lay person sitting in some of those presentations, just hearing the presentations from the professors, the researchers who are coming out, delivering their latest research. I know the asparagus piece I referred to was some cold storage research for asparagus, which is a bit of a new thing that's being developed. Last week I learned a little bit about cold hardiness of different apple species, and again, the research is amazing just to kind of sit and listen to as a lay person, let alone someone who understands that industry. So they do an amazing job of bringing that research, then circulating that out to the farm network through presentations at specific events, but also visiting farms individually, and their impact is significant in terms of making sure that our farmers are using the latest and greatest techniques. We have recently hired a new farm manager up at the research station, and there's an assistant farm manager. So there's been some a transition in the management as far as the day-to-day operations up there, but we're excited to have those two positions in place because that facility is getting busier and busier, and there is lots of super important work that is being currently done and scheduled to be done in the coming years. I have invited a couple of guests. Sarah Shaner is sitting behind me. Sarah can wave. Some of you know Sarah, some of you don't. I just wanted to make sure that you did have a face to put to that name. Sarah's been leading our 4-H program for about 5-6 years now. We're going to talk about 4-H in a little bit. But Sarah's seen some solid growth this year. Last year, we'll talk about her numbers. But Sarah's an important person in the community in terms of the youth programming that she presents and the opportunities that she provides youth in all different capacities, not just within 4-H, but also as a participant on the College Access Network group and various other community groups. Kathy Walicki, I think most of you know Kathy pretty well. I don't know if everybody does, but Kathy's been around a whole lot longer than I have here, and I say that with all due respect. She is truly embedded in the community. She does so much beyond her required responsibilities in her role as part-time supporting our local county efforts, but also part-time supporting me. And of course, in between, she's just fully invested in making sure she can do anything to benefit Oceana County. She serves on the Farm Bureau Board. She's doing a lot of stuff for MDOT in terms of pesticide training. The list goes on in terms of Kathy's efforts. Amber's sitting back here. Again, Amber is the person who a year ago, probably about this time, we were talking about investing some of her time in supporting the Oceana County Economic Alliance. So she's currently doing that 5 hours a week and really is much more engaged, I'll say, now with Curtis, and Curtis is putting those hours to use really well, which is good to see. Beyond those 5 hours, Amber spends about 15 hours of her normal week supporting 4-H, and she's about to take on a really important role statewide, and that is some additional hours to support our reintroduction of our soil test services, which again, some people in this room are more familiar with, but MSU as an organization whole in Lansing decided to stop that service. An extension as a piece of the organization said, no, we really need to maintain that service, so we have taken on that responsibility to kind of redesign that service, and Amber's going to be a key person in the beginning of that process and keeping that moving. We also have a new staff, Lisa Fleury, who's doing community nutrition instruction. So she was hired late towards the end of last year. She's just starting to roll out into the community. She'll be doing presentations around health and nutrition with all age groups, from farmers markets to school groups to senior centers. And because of that, I think our activity and our numbers, again, will continue to grow next year. In terms of the data, again, I don't really want to read this to you, but as I shared last year, I think I presented a similar format. I tried to just capture some numbers for our annual report, knowing that in our quarterly reports, I send you a little bit more background and some of the stories of what we're actually doing. So you will see some specific areas where I've highlighted some significant increases. And again, I think to some extent you'd expect that coming off COVID and some of the restrictions we were dealing with at that point, but 59% increase in the number of residents from Oceana County that was served through MSU Extension. So about 1,400 Oceana County residents participated in programs. 14,000 folks across the state actually participated in programs that our staff here locally put on, and I think that's an important number to know as well. There was an increase in programs offered. We continue to offer a blend of virtual and in-person. Our traffic in the office remained pretty steady last year. About 6,400 folks rolled into the office looking for various levels of support. And we had a little over 550 youth come in or participate in different programs. That's not just 4-H, but it's other youth programs that we're rolling out through some of our other departments. And that was a significant increase too. Facebook's a major piece of our promotion. We have 2 sites. There's a 4-H site and there's a Oceana County MSU extension, about 43,000 visits to that. We sell soil test kits. We sell bulletins to local pesticide commercial folks, and again, the list of things we do is a long one, so I won't go through that. On the back, or on the second page, there is a sampling of some of the programs that Oceana County residents participated in. I always like to throw that in there just to give you a sense of the real broad variety of programming. So hopefully you had a chance to look through that part of the report as well. So I focused primarily on the folks that sit up the road on the hill. And I always like to remind folks during our annual report that there's a lot of other benefits in contributing or financially supporting MSU Extension, and that is the network that you're helping to maintain. And that includes things like our water resource programming. So, and I'm not going to single you out, but Commissioner Morse, I heard that you participated in our Intro to Lakes program, which is a program that's highlighted in amongst all of the other water-based programs.
Yeah, I did as well.
You did well.
Yep.
I did not know that. And you could give me some feedback later, but it's a very popular program. I know Commissioner Erickson got to hear Eric Elgin, our water resource person, give a quick update at our last District Extension Council. So he's just an outstanding resource and one of many that surrounds Oceana County and in the state of Michigan that people can draw on as long as they know that they're available. We have a commercial fisherman expert who does fishery workshops and has played a role in kind of assisting the charter fishermen who roll in and out of Pentwater. And one of the themes that kind of crosses my mind as I share these reports often is that our success is really driven by people engaging with us, and often it's that's our challenge, is to get people to engage with us, which is where I come in and always encourage you, if you are aware of any needs in the community, doesn't matter how broad they are, I challenge you to send me an email, drop them in my lap so that we can see what kind of resources the university can bring. Some of those resources may be outside of the university themselves or outside of Extension, but in the broader university. Another example of that was the First Impressions Tourism Group that the City of Hart engaged with. So that process is continuing. That's a group of about 4 or 5 Extension educators from across the state that came in and did kind of an assessment on what are first impressions to folks rolling into the City of Hart. What are some of the challenges to future development and growing the tourism? So I was super excited to hear that Hart had signed on for that and brought that into the county. I know that's a valuable program. We provide some support for economic development through our product innovation team. We have a person based out of Muskegon County that can help small businesses, entrepreneurs start their businesses. Their report from 2022 showed that they worked with 3 clients in Oceana County whose businesses had a combined annual sales of around $70,000. We work with the starting block. They provide some of those services. If it's kind of beyond their scope, they send them to us. But a good kind of team approach in that respect. And then I also am always encouraged and pleased when I can kind of play a role in a local county. So I was very happy to be asked to serve on the ARPA Advisory Committee. That was a good experience for me. I know I get individual questions from various commissioners at various times, and our administrator. I hope our connection on the land use permit piece was helpful, but that's key to me, that if you are coming up again against a bit of a challenge, that you might think to call me and say, hey James, what can you provide me? I probably won't have the answer, but I probably know someone who might. With that, a little bit more focus on 4-H. 2022 did see an increase in our youth memberships, about a 5% increase, and you have those numbers on the bottom of my last page of the report. I'm not sure it is in yours. So a slight growth in membership. Our club numbers stayed about the same, and our volunteer numbers actually dropped a little bit, which is interestingly a bit of a trend across most of the counties and across the state, and not just in Extension World too. I'm talking in other circles about the challenges of getting folks back engaged post-COVID to volunteer time, whether it's serving for civic purpose or some other purpose. It's just become a bit of a challenge to get folks to think that way. So we will be spending a lot of time focusing on rebuilding some volunteer numbers this year. Having shared that, I'll point out that our 4-H year runs September 1st to September 1st, so we're able to kind of measure already 6 months into this next year, and our numbers are already ahead, 5% ahead of where they were last year. We have 2 new clubs that have formed, one of them at Thomas Reed Elementary, which is an after-school STEM program, and there's going to be a community garden club starting up, so Sarah's doing a great job at, again, finding new ways to engage with youth. One of the things I'll just share that makes 4-H different, I think, from other youth programs, we are heavily invested in our volunteer screening process, as you would imagine, post Larry Nassar and some of the other MSU events. We pride ourselves in really being the leader in terms of volunteer screening and really managing that mentor-youth relationship. So I think that's important to know. I'm almost there. Take it to my last page. My last few comments, again, wrapping up the 4-H piece, of course, the county fair continues to be a high point for 4-H, and I'll just kind of refresh your memories in terms of last August and a record-breaking market auction in terms of dollars invested in youth. Over $260,000 spent on buying animals at the fair, I think is an amazing number. As someone who didn't grow up in the world of 4-H or embedded in auction numbers, that's just a significant investment in youth and families who are connected to ag, and probably more importantly, I won't say probably, be more definitive, more importantly, that opportunity to develop those healthy habits in terms of taking on responsibilities for an animal, raising it, documenting things. It's just a great training model to kind of develop strong character for our youth. I was going to touch just finally on the mental health piece. So we do have a person in Muskegon who I have shared is going to be serving all 5 counties in terms of mental health, and that's mental health first aid for youth. I know there was some discussion a couple of weeks ago following a meeting about what's MSU doing in the world of mental health. So we did receive a grant along with DHD 10. We're actually working very closely with them. Our person met with Josh Snyder recently just to kind of discuss strategically how we're going to utilize those funds to not duplicate services. MSU's never in the business of competing for any program, so some counties have very well-managed coalitions that get together and talk about what they're doing and do the right thing in terms of making sure they're not overlapping each other and stepping on their toes, and there are other counties that don't do as good with that. But let me reassure you that we are being very strategic in making sure that we're providing services that are in need. So that's going to be providing some training specifically to 11th and 12th graders and potentially high school teachers, a very well-proven program that's been around for a few years. I also like on the annual reports to certainly thank our Commissioner Representative Erickson for serving on the District Extension Council. We also have another committed community member, America Estrada, who has been really valuable to us in terms of representing the migrant population in the area. And because he's sitting behind me and because it's worthy, I'll also thank Gary McKean, who's provided some significant support and more recently was kind of hosting us for our all district staff meeting down in Muskegon County and hosted us down at the Silver Sides Museum. So thanks for that, Gary. So appreciate your continued support. Again, I'm going to put that appeal out there. We're only going to be as successful as we are engaged, and I throw that challenge out to you. If you're not in the habit of thinking of us to help you, do test us out a little bit. Bring a problem to us and see what resources we can bring. So with that, happy to take some questions.
Yeah, we were very concerned about this mental health question, and we did discuss it up in Cadillac at District 10 with 18 other county commissioners besides Robert and myself, and overlap of services is just incredible. My wife works in the school, so she's very aware of the challenges that we have with kids. Community mental health right now, my meeting on Monday, I find that CMH Downtown Hart is in a staffing crisis. Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is hiring. We're backlogged there. There's a lot of challenges, and it was the duplication of the services and the appropriate delivery of those services that we were most concerned about at DH10. To get that coordinated.
Yeah, I'll just share that we've been in that scene for as long as I've been in with Extension, in terms of through wellness and anger management and some of our family education. So we've been in that field kind of on the periphery, and we're not looking to become the next community mental health agency by any means, but we received a grant. There are multiple agencies, of course, that are competing to hire folks right now, which is one of the challenges, but that's where I think it is just so important. As you mentioned, that coordination piece is essential. So I have been sharing that with our person in Muskegon, how important that is, and what that may mean is that there are certain schools in Oceana County that don't need our services, and there may be others that do, but we're going to make sure that we're offering this because we know it's a proven program and that it will that it has the potential to benefit from significantly.
And the FIT program was very good for the city of Hart. I really enjoyed that. I think it had a great impact. The banquet that we had, a lot of information was there for us, and I look forward to
and ongoing. So I'm excited to see what comes from it.
Yeah. Yep. We were one of 3 cities in the Lower Peninsula, I believe.
Yep. That's a program that we're seeking more funding from Michigan Economic Development, MEDC, to be able to provide that more broadly. So you will be held up as an example of what we can do with that program.
Any other questions for Mr. Kelly?
Thanks for your time and patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pendaluan. And Tracy, County Inspection Pay Policy discussion.
So I wanted to have a discussion with you with regards to the pay discussion for the inspectors. They currently receive 55% of the permit fee. With the passing of the mechanical and plumbing inspector, this was brought to light because that is paid up front. We had to pay additional because those inspections had not been completed. So I wanted to have that discussion with you. And talking with Bob about this and discuss ways of changing that so we don't end up paying so much at the end.
Mr. Walker.
I alluded to this very quickly at our last meeting, and I want to make it clear that the change that we have right now, it's my thoughts that we just do this with the new inspector that we are hiring. We don't go back to the inspectors that have been on this program for several years in the past. You know, let's implement it with this inspector, see how it works, and see how it goes. You basically have 2 different proposals. One, I was surprised when Tracy reached out to other counties. The one that I proposed is very, very similar to what Mecosta County does now, with one little difference. They pay 60% up front and 40% at the completion, at the final inspection. And I sat alongside of Randy Miller when we did our update for our builder's licenses. And as you know, Randy is our building inspector, and he's in charge of the office there. And Randy said there are a lot of final inspections that are not done, that people just don't call for a final inspection, and you can't force them to do one. So that's why it was added in there, and the 50% that I proposed was just a starting point, and the fact that they would be paid at the final inspection, or 4 months, which is a starting point, maybe that could be 2 months after the permit expires, because if the permit expires, they have to pull a whole new permit. If they don't get the final inspection during the permit time period, they have to pull a whole new permit. So I can understand why we have to have the second thing in there if we do it that way. The other, and as Randy and I talked, that we need to keep this as simple as we possibly can, you know, to work to how they get paid. The other thing is, there has been a proposal from the office that we do the permit fees and 50%, and then we pay every time they go for inspection. I can tell you with one of the houses that I furnished the materials for, that house had 11 furnaces in it. It had, so each time one was brought online, there was an inspection, and that house probably had a total of inspections that were done on it, and this is out of the ordinary, but that probably had a total of, I'm guessing, 25, someplace in the neighborhood of 25 inspections. To me, it seems much easier to do 2 payments than 25 for a house. I guess there is a concern with the software program that there may be some difficulty with just doing the 2 payments. As every one of you know, I'm not a computer person, and I'm not knowledgeable on those, but it would seem to me if you can pay for 2 inspections, if you can pay for 25 inspections, why can't you pay for 2 inspections? And Mecosta County uses the same software program. We could ask them how they go about doing it. But I open it up to board discussion. You know, first, I think you realize that I strongly think we have to make a change somehow in how we're doing this. And I open it up for discussion on the thoughts of the other board members. Mr. Erickson, if that would please your committee.
I do believe it's time for that conversation, Trace.
I just want to make tell you that Bob had mentioned about the department, about a portion of the permit fees and the inspection. When I talked to her, she's only asking that we do a per inspection fee, nothing to do with the permit fees.
She wants to change the whole way we do it then. I guess I lost you.
She's asking that because the software does not allow for the permit fee half now, half later. She reached out to BSNA and it's not in that software to be able to keep track of that. So she's asking that a per inspection fee be established based off of what we've paid out in the past. So the inspector would be responsible for writing down the permit number, and the inspection they did, turn that in, and that's how she would pay off of that.
Now, taking that forward, I knew after our land bank meeting that the office has been talking to the county treasurer about this, and I had a conversation this morning with the county treasurer, who ultimately is in charge of finances, and she said that she didn't understand what the question was to the person BSNA on doing this, and she thought it was very complicated, and she said it depends who you talk to at BSNA, that she has been told they can't do things in the past too, and you get to the right person, it can be done. She said that's not unusual, and her comment to me this morning was, I have a meeting with her next Tuesday, and I think we can work this all out. I don't want to get in the administration part of it. I want us to set policy and go from there. But as I say, Mecosta County is doing it, and our treasurer says she thinks she can work it out. unless you wanna at my computer knowledge, I think you all realize that the simpler is the better. And the less input you have to do, the less possibility of having errors in the system. I would ask that we try this, and maybe we should do what Mecosta County is doing, say that 60% gets paid up front, along with the plan reviews. When somebody brings in a permit or a blueprint for a building, they not only pay for fees for the inspections and then to be in compliance with the code. Under just about all of them, they pay a plan review that the inspector goes through and does to make sure there's no real blatant things. Best example I can give you, 2 examples. He looks at a residential to make sure there's 2 points of egress from a residential house. You know, they have to be 3 feet wide, they can't be a sliding door, and they can't go through a garage. He'll look at the plinths to make sure those are there. He'll make sure that windows that are in the bedrooms are a minimum of 5.7 square feet for the opening and 28 inches wide. He'll look at those things to make sure they're compliant. And I can tell you that I've even seen prints that are sealed by architects that are totally compliance-wide, you know. And I'm saying that respectfully because some architects do only commercial stuff, and they get into residential print. Residential, it's a completely different world. So, maybe we should consider, if we're going that route, going with the 60% up front, 40% at the final inspection, or 2 months after the permit expires, and the plan reviews are paid totally up front, because that work is all done. That work is all done up front.
They get paid 100% of the plan reviews right now, and I just wanted to point out Mecosta's, they only get a 60% of the permit fee, and they pay half of that 60% up front, and then the other half is paid when it's finished.
I get the formula from Mecosta isn't that much different than ours, except for the new waiver we did on fees at the last meeting.
So Mecosta pays their inspectors 60% of the permit fee, which we pay 55.
Yes,
is that right?
correct.
But they still do 50% at the time the permit's pulled.
Yeah.
Paid to the inspector, and then 50% upon completion or expiration.
Right.
Okay. Is this free discussion?
Nope. Yeah.
So I'm not a builder. I don't pretend to be. What happens? So these other counties that are paying per inspection, say the mechanical inspection, it fails a rough-in, and so it requires a re-inspection. Are the inspectors getting paid for the primary and the follow-up?
Yes.
There has to be a new permit or a second inspection fee.
Yeah.
You know,
So that if they fail,
an additional inspection.
Okay,
Yes.
so if they fail, then it comes with a fee to re-inspect. So the county's not absorbing that.
No, I think that's $30.
Okay.
You know, I think that may be $30, depending on what it is.
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
There's a variance in there, like the house I said that had 11 furnaces.
Yeah.
So a re-inspection is not going to be $30
Right.
for that house.
Well, I wanted to be sure that not that I'm advocating for that, but certainly if there's a per inspection pay, but there's no income for that it's not up to the county or the department to absorb that. So I was just curious. So that's also the case under our current structure. If I fail a mechanical inspection, there needs to be a re-inspection. I have to pay more money for that second inspection.
Normally, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Or all of the counties in the state, a lot of them have state inspectors do it. You know, we don't want state inspectors to do it.
No.
They're very difficult, they're hard to get in, very, very expensive.
Our builders won't be very happy.
Yeah, they will be here in force, you know, but, some of the counties have inspectors who are employees. We went to the contract inspectors because it worked out financially a lot better for us and a lot better for the inspectors.
Which is why we didn't get very many responses back from the counties, because a lot of them had their own.
Okay.
So, you wouldn't think that it would be difficult. Now, I can tell you, in Muskegon County, there are a lot of the governmental agencies down there. If it is a commercial inspections, a lot of them contract the commercial big stuff to the city of Norton Shores, because the city of Norton Shores, their lead inspector is a PE, he's a structural engineer, and they don't want to get into that big stuff. I'm not advocating that either. You know, it's worked out just fine for us, you know, with what we're doing. But we need to at least give some guidance, because the inspections office has somebody that they've interviewed for the plumbing and mechanical, and Tracy's office was involved in an interview last Friday, and they are ready to offer an Oceana County resident that position to cover those two inspections. And it's very unusual to find somebody who can be licensed to do both of them anymore. And we have somebody who is very interested and came, Tracy, can I say, recommended from another unit of government?
Sure.
Also, Mason County recommended that he apply for this down here. So we have somebody there, so we need to set a structure in the wages, you know, and how we do it.
Any questions?
So your discussion with the treasurer, she's quite confident that the software is able. Okay, I've experienced, you know, you call tech support for a piece of software and, oh no, that can't be done. But alas, you talk to somebody who's either figured out a workaround or just knows the software better, and it is available. So I guess if the treasurer is quite confident that that can be worked out in software, I think the pay structure is good, considering the situation we just faced, where we've paid 100% up front, whether it's a death or retirement, you know, whatever it is. Ultimately, that costs the building department quite a bit of money to finish up those inspections. This structure alleviates that issue somewhat. It makes it better. If somebody retires and they've got 300 outstanding permits, then whoever we hire will have some catch up to do, but there's still money in the coffers to pay that inspector for the final.
If I may, Mr. Banks, Randy discussed that, and with their contract, the outgoing inspector is responsible to pay the new inspector to cover those. And there was a discussion that I totally strayed away from. There's been a lot of discussions back and forth on this with a lot of people. I've even had some builders weigh in on their feelings about this. As you know, I know most of the builders in the county. And one of the things was that the inspector's office wanted us to set up an escrow account where they put a certain amount of money in their escrow account, so when they retired or they left, that money was there. And if you just saw the look from our clerk, my comment was, we can't be your private banker.
Right.
We can't set up things like that. I shut that right down. I don't think we want to be anybody's banker, you know, so they have the money in the bank to pay when they're going to retire. That's not our responsibility. But that being said, if for some reason it totally defaulted, it's going to come back to us.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think there's great wisdom in work completed, work paid. And so even that contract, where I know they're not employees, it's a little bit different, but well, if you'll pay your successor to finish your job, the if that ends up in dispute, the lawyer fees to work that out and gain enforcement is just, you might as well have just paid the new inspector to do the inspections, cause it could go
That's
south.
how it is right now, though.
Yeah, I know,
That's
and
how it's set up.
I'm not comfortable with that. I wouldn't agree to that as a county commissioner now for new employees.
But I don't think we wanna be their banker.
No, absolutely not.
You know, and that is exactly when this was set up, for some of these unforeseen things that could happen. That's why we retain 45% of the inspection fees for an administrative cost to pay for the office and for things like this very, very unfortunate death of a 53-year-old man, that we still have the responsibility for those.
Yep.
And the unforeseen things, that, you know, plan for the worst and hope for the best. But
Yeah, well then, okay, what, doesn't an occupancy permit have any weight anymore? Have we got a problem there?
the only place the occupancy permit really has a weight anymore, unless you wanna get into lawsuits on every one of them, is if they are financed through any lending institution. The lending institution won't close the finance out until there's occupancy permits. And I would bet that 95% of the houses have a lending institution of some type with it. If people can get a loan anymore, because to get a construction loan now, you need either 20 or 25% down on the cost of the house. Excludes a lot of people. But where you get into it is somebody is paying for it themselves. But the thing you get into is now the insurance agent companies, if they find out there's been no final inspection on the electrical and the heating systems, you will not get insurance. And if you have insurance and they find out, they will not continue the insurance. The market has to take care of those things themselves, because the enabling legislation does not allow. You can't, if somebody moves in and they don't get final inspections, you can't go in and remove them from their house. And there are people that aren't gonna do it. I don't know if it's that great, but the market is the only thing that can change it all.
And then, contract language, I've been around long enough to know Lyle Alexander and Randy Newman when he was a boy, and we've ended up with these contract guys. Didn't we have language in that with a performance bond that any unpaid fees would be returned, or any inspections? We call it work billed not performed, and you can't, you know, it's incredulous that we've got a policy that you can pay ahead and eat it if it doesn't happen.
There are some things that they have to have, and I have not read that in 12 years.
Well, maybe we should have read it.
Liability insurance
and a performance bond.
They're responsible for all of those things.
Well, how did we get in this mess?
I can't tell you about the bond. I don't think there is, but I can't tell you, because this was, when we went to the contract employees, was probably 15 or 16 years ago.
If we got a contract around to read, there's got to be something in this contract that says something about work paid for, work billed not performed.
Good question. I do not have the answer to that.
I can't cash a check unless I've done the work.
Right.
I sit on checks for months.
I do not know the answer to that.
Well, we need to know.
I'm not gonna disagree.
Yeah, I'd say that's that's something we need to look into, a secondary discussion along this line that
I don't want
we need to reconsider with our current
situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't
Maybe we
want
don't-
to enter a contract
maybe we
that's
don't
got a hole
change
in
our
it.
pay structure, but
You know, if we're gonna do that, I think there's some merit to doing that across the board for everybody.
Well, exactly. Thank you.
You know, we might be able to do something with this inspector at this time and tell him that we are looking at the possibility of performance bonds, I think they're the very, very valid point. We are on, we're in new territory here.
How many outstanding inspections do we have right now?
Well, they said for the plumbing inspections, there were 350 when Rich passed away.
Which has already been paid for. Cause when the permit fee
Three-
comes in, that's when they get paid for it.
350 that all need.
And I don't know how many mechanical.
Well, maybe we need to know all of this before we talk about it anymore. It sounds to me like the horse is already out of the barn.
Well, even a change right now, though, if we're contemplating hiring, obviously a new plumbing mechanical one, it doesn't hurt to change that. So that it doesn't go back to the bond or everything else. You pay after the inspection is done, whatever percentage you decide, and that way you're still covered, regardless. And then you don't have the bond involved or anything else, so. I mean, for a new hire right now, I agree not going back and trying to retrofit to everybody that's there now, but for a new hire, I think that's probably the best way to continue. That eliminates a lot of problems, because even getting the funding from the bonding is not gonna be an easy task.
And the bonding companies are gonna look for every reason they can not to pay it.
Exactly.
Well, okay, I don't care about bonds. All I'm talking
No,
about
but
is work.
To
built, not
recover,
performed.
maybe there's some way to recover what we have right now, but continuing forward, I'm just saying, I don't think it hurts to change the
And
policy on the new hire.
And so I'm anxious to see what the contract language was as to how we ended up paying for work not performed. And what are the clauses, where's the clawback in that? I can't see an attorney writing a contract that doesn't protect us, and it sounds like we've got one.
Right.
I don't see anything in there about performance bonds.
Well, I don't care about a performance bond, I'm talking about performance, that's all.
I've got, copies for you.
You know, that's where I'm getting at.
But again, if we with a new contract, I think if we change this, it's a great way to start. That eliminates any problems down the road later on.
Mr. Erickson, Mr. Hardy, that's what I'm asking for today.
Right.
That we establish a different way of payment on this, so we can offer this person a contract, and we can start having that person do the inspection.
I'd support that.
But with that, at the same time, I think you brought up some very valid points, Mr. Erickson, and I think we need to look at the existing things we have now too.
I just see with 360 to play catch-up ball on it.
Because we are not protecting the County Board of Commissioners on this. We're protecting everybody in Oceana County on this that pays fees. Can I ask Mr. Erickson, is there one that the board members prefer over the other one?
Between which?
Between paying every time they do an inspection, or paying 50% at the front, all of the plan review fees, and paying the other 50% at the end, after final inspection, or 2 months after the expiration of the permit?
There's a problem with this one already. Tell me where number 3 is. I don't see it.
Missing a number.
What was the question, Mr. Erickson?
And if it is number 3, the inspector shall be responsible for completing all required inspections for the application has been made, and if the fees have been collected. So we do have a requirement there, it's just not, and if that is number 3. I don't see number 3, so I'm wondering what's missing. And do we do this annually?
I have never seen one.
I don't see a sunset date.
No, there's no.
It was all done administratively before, when these people were hired. And as you see, it was signed, this one was signed by the former administrator plus the inspector, which I don't have a problem with, you know, providing the board sets policy by with what it says. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be rewritten.
So I think we've got 2 questions that we're discussing. Let's finish one and then we can pick up the other. But I mean, I guess for one, whatever contract we offer our new inspector, we should review it. I know this is going to add some length to the process. We should review it, but probably our legal counsel ought to review it too. I guess in my mind, the question of half and half or a per inspection basis, for simplicity, 2 payments sound, you know, two payments to track per permit sure sounds better than 2, 3, 4, who knows how many inspections required. It's just less numbers to juggle. It's 2 versus 2 plus who knows how many.
What? Can we do this? Can we have the administrator get this contract down to our attorney, and then it can change, but why don't we put in there about the 50% paid up front along with plan review?
Gotta have the terms.
You know,
they don't have terms.
But we will tell them to draft one that we can read and look at. 50% up front along with all the plan reviews, and the other 50% at the final inspection or 2 months later. And then see what the attorney advises us on a bond and see what they come up with. I'm sure they've looked at them before.
Sure. And maybe that final payment won't be dispersed until there's an occupancy permit hung on the wall. So that
no, we can't hang that on our inspectors.
We can't do that to our inspectors.
That's not their fault if a final inspection isn't called for.
It comes from their office.
That's the resident. That's a homeowner's problem, not our inspector. That's placing responsibility where it doesn't belong.
So we're looking at 50% of the permit fee, or the percentage of the permit fees.
50% of 55% to be
half
paid.
of 55.
Right. Yeah. Half of their payment.
Right. So I just want to point this out because you said this. You said, why are we paying for work that hasn't been done? Yeah. We're paying them for work that hasn't been done. And that's what you do when you pay for permit fees. When you pay a percentage of the permit fees, you're paying them for a permit that's been purchased, but they're getting paid for not doing any work yet. I'm just pointing that out.
That's the way the ball bounces. You half
Right.
down and half when you're done. I mean, that's common business practice when you're got time and fuel and miles and an investment of their own.
Okay.
And you got to trust your contractor.
So what?
Go ahead.
If it would please the other board members, why don't we have the administrator draft an email and attach copies of this to our attorney, and before she sends it to our attorney, she sends it to all of the board members. Each one of the board members can reply back to the administrator, not to other board members, on it if they have suggestions that they think need to be put in there. And then we can get this mailed out as soon as possible, and we'll ask so we can have a look at the next meeting. In the meantime, I would like to allow the administrator to offer a position with this person, you know, to start after our October or our April 11th meeting, and we will finalize the contracts and everything at our April 11th meeting.
And for the outstandings that have been unpaid for, we'll determine
We've got somebody we're paying $15 an inspection to do that right now. James Callender, who is a mechanical and plumbing inspector for Montague and Montague Township. We are paying him to do it now. And if he will continue, you know, we'll just do that. And if he won't continue, if James wants to stop, I think we can extend the same offer to the new inspector until we get a contract done.
Gotta get something happening,
And-
'cause.
And I would ask just a concurrence from the board members that we be able to move forward.
Yep.
Please do.
Yeah, I agree.
Long discussion on a difficult situation, and I thank you for your concurrence. Because you and I'll talk later about the letter, then you can get it out to everybody.
Sure.
Thank you. Any public comment? Mr. McKean?
Well, good morning. It's spring and it's sunny, so let's have a little bit more attitude, better attitude. I just wanted to say that 12 years ago, I took a extension class, a Master Naturalist class, and subsequently I've taken several others. I'm also asked the extension, which is the Lawn and Garden Hotline, which I've done for a number of years. Last year I had 130 people that contacted me through the extension. Not all from Oceana County, but I'm the tree and invasive species guy, I guess. So I get those. The opportunity for me to learn through the Lakes and Streams program that Mr. Biggs and Mr. Morris have taken has allowed me to really understand fully what's going on with our creeks and our parks as we went forward, and working with a lot of really high-end engineering people. So what I learned 10, 12 years ago, I put into practice in our county parks today. Our County Planning Commission relies heavily on the extension. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we've had several programs recently with a planner who is an extension person, I think out of Big Rapids. I can't remember her name right now. Do you remember, Phil? Yeah. But she's really excellent. She's done programs for Golden Township, I know, that I've been to. So the opportunity to bring the extension and continue to have the extension add on to things into Oceana County is really remarkable. About 3 weeks ago, we had 400 master gardeners together at Kent County at the Lawn and Garden Show. And there was a show of hands of what county you were from. There were only probably 4 or 5 from Oceana. But the opportunity to expand that program into West Michigan is really, I think, a great opportunity, and we can all play a part of that. So I just want to say thanks for your support of the extension, and it's really a great group, and the residents learn a lot from it. It's not just 4-H. There's a whole host of things, as you know. So from my own personal experience. So I'll be a Gary McKean resident in Mears, Michigan today. Sorry.
Thanks. Would there be any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll adjourn this meeting.
I think we'll take a short intermission here.
Yeah, walk around a little bit.
Intermission, a little popcorn.
I see Jim so often.
Yeah.
Good. Good.